And then afterwards, they can basically go back to doing whatever it is they want to do, or basically just chill home and do nothing. Also, as a guy, I know for a fact, after you've nutted, you're not particularly the most powerful individual. So it's very common actually for guys after having sex to just black out. That's usually kind of like a side effect. And even after you nut, you don't come out feeling stronger. You actually feel a little bit weaker. So when you kind of look at it,
the royal penis is clean, Your Highness.
welcome to the Breakdown Podcast, where I talk about love, sex, and relationships from a guy's perspective, as well as a bunch of other guy shit. The man on the mic is a man who might find it hard to breathe if you've got that asthma. He is also a man who may include jumping to conclusions to his cardio routine. It is none other than your tall, dark, and mildly handsome man, Sir Denver B. And I am here because the British seem to be fucking up. Okay, it's not like it's colonialism or anything, but for some reason, I just seem to have been stumbling onto content from Britain where British people, or people affiliated with the country of Britain, just do not seem to be doing shit that is particularly smart, or at least saying things that are particularly, well thought out. Not that I'm saying that they're bad, it's just I don't think they properly thought out what it is that they are trying to say or do, and I hope to at least enlighten our fellows that gave us the English language, even though us Kenyans like to utilize that shit for, not the best reason sometimes, and, try and come to some sort of a good discussion, or at least trigger some discussion that can at least ask people to think about things a little bit differently. And this cuts across whether it's the British government, which I'm going to speak on, or the remarks of a particularly young man. So if you would want to hear both and my thoughts on it and what I believe we should be thinking about or, trying to discuss out here, then probably you should be listening all the way till the end of the episode. And should you like it, should you not like it, should you have a different form of feedback, or should you want to suggest a potential topic for me to discuss on this episode, or even a potential guest, then my DMs are always open and the links to the social media are always in the description and they rarely ever change. But should you not feel like going to the description, then maybe you should listen all the way till the end, because I usually mention them there, whether it's IG we're talking about, whether it's Facebook, whether it's X, and even whether it's Bluesky, because I'm also on there. But anyways, with all of that said, there's quite a bit that I need to discuss today regarding, some version of the British, and I want to kick things off with the British government and the fact that they want to make porn illegal. Okay, not exactly porn, but certain kinds of porn, which is even more interesting than just making porn illegal in general. Now, the British government has actually announced plans to illegalize porn videos that include choking and suffocation. Now, I'm just going to read the story real quick because this one's a pretty interesting one. So it says, and I quote, "The UK government is moving to ban certain adult content videos that depict strangulation or suffocation, citing links to violence against women and girls. A government review found these scenes were common on major sites and risk normalizing abuse among young audiences. Under new amendments to the Crime and Policing Bill, both possession and publication of such material will become criminal offences. Platforms will also be required to remove this content or face penalties under Ofcom. Officials say the measure classifies this material as a priority offence under the Online Safety Act alongside child exploitation and terrorism content." Technology Secretary Liz Kendall called the content vile and dangerous, quote-unquote, while Conservative peer Baroness Burton urged the government to go further, noting that violent material often remains legal online despite offline bans. End quote. Okay, now this I find to be particularly interesting because, I don't know, this is a couple of women that are coming and they're like, this content is vile and dangerous. And they really think that pushing for a ban on this kind of porn will actually reduce it. And I don't know, maybe it's just me, but considering that the UK government isn't all women, aren't there a couple of men that can come out and be like, y'all are probably just chatting a bunch of bull? Or is it that most of them are just happy that it's just the choking videos that can be removed? Or, those clips can just be edited out, so that it's not really as bad as, illegalizing porn in general. Because, there's a ton of guys that actually kind of like that sort of thing, alright? And by that, I mean porn. But, on the real though, when I look at this, I just see women that have completely lost the idea of what it is that might be making men violent. Although, even before I can get to the men, let's start from the women's side of the aisle, which it seems like these grown, mature women seem to have forgotten, but there's a lot of women that actually love being choked out. And the funniest part about this is, like, maybe it's just me, and I could be wrong about this, but I've noticed that there's a lot more women today that like the idea of strangulation than even before. It's a lot more of a kink that a lot of women seem to like nowadays, provided it's done well, as opposed to back in the day when people were kind of looking at sex as a typical missionary doggy style and try to be gentle with the shorty. So to say that this promotes violence just seems a little bit off. I think they're taking it at face value, especially considering that if anything, porn makes men the exact opposite of violent. Actually, porn makes men more docile than ever. It's an issue that people are trying to counteract right now, and if you sat in enough men's circles or even just a few, you'd realize this is actually a thing. There's men out here that are trying to push, for the banning of pornography, for men to stop watching pornography. There's the nofap community that is totally against pornography because of its ability to make men docile. And the reason it makes men docile is, instead of going to look for the sex from a lady, or instead of them basically going out in search of that pleasure, they are basically just killing it all just by sitting in front of a screen and watching a couple of women that they wish they could be with physically basically give them the mental stimulation to go and unnut themselves and shit like that. And then afterwards they can basically go back to doing whatever it is they want to do, or basically just chill home and do nothing. Also, as a guy, I know for a fact, after you've nutted, you're not particularly the most powerful individual. So it's very common actually for guys after having sex to just black out. That's usually kind of like a side effect, and even after you nut, you don't come out feeling stronger, you actually feel a little bit weaker. So when you kind of look at it, like, banning certain types of porn is basically now just creating a hole which will be filled by OnlyFans creators and smaller creators or people that use paid sites to basically offer the same thing but at a fee. So not only will they be making men docile, but they'll be making them docile and broke. So this does not have its collective gain as much as people would think. You can also throw in the idea of the forbidden fruit tastes sweetest, in that now, because it'll be banned, those that might have some interest in it, even vaguely a little, will go through certain lengths to get it, and as such, because they're putting effort into that, might make them like it a little bit more, or feel like it's a little bit better because they have to put a little bit more effort, so there is a certain sense of reward to it. Also, you could be making the VPN companies richer and so on and so forth, but all in all, like, I don't see this having any real collective good, because y'all are basically just trying to attach the idea of people being choked on camera with the idea that men are now going to want to go ahead and choke women on the street. Like, guys that are into this kind of thing will probably want to try it in the bedroom, and not unless if there's an uptick in like women who have died from strangulation during sex, I would argue against this quite a bit. Although granted, this is the UK government and there's a lot of things that they seem to have the wrong idea on, like making this a top tier priority. But then again, maybe they have stats that I don't, maybe they have proof of concept that I haven't seen, which I wouldn't mind seeing. But all in all, I am going to leave it at that and move it on to our main topic of this episode. And I have to admit, it's about the date, or at least the lack thereof, because there is a young man that decided to hop onto Instagram to speak on how women today have no dating options or little dating options, because apparently it seems like men haven't been doing well enough, or they haven't been doing what they should be doing, and that's making them just seem so much worse. And they could be and they should be better. And I know it sounds like the guy is probably crying out for like men to be assisted, except that he's doing the exact opposite of that, and he's busy saying that most of these men have zero masculinity. And treating a babe out shouldn't be anything that complicated, and y'all should be putting in effort. So I am going to let the clip play, and I will admit this one's a bit of a long clip, and I'll get into my thoughts on it, because while I do agree with a lot of what this guy is saying, I don't think he fully understands who he's speaking to, or at least who he's speaking about. But all in all, let me just let the clip play, then I can give my thoughts on the entire thing. So without further ado,
I actually feel severely sorry for women nowadays. The dating market in terms of men to pick from is absolutely horrendous from what I've heard. Men have zero masculinity or direction in them at all. Hey, maybe we can go for a coffee date? I don't know. It's up to you though, I don't know. No life in them, no ambition, no direction, no energy. You at least sound like you're enjoying the conversation. Do you know what I mean, bro? That's the first point. It's like, you boys need to get some direction in your life. You need some masculinity. You need to know what you want, and then you need to go and get it. It's the same with anything else in life. You want money, you need to know that you want money, and then you need to go fucking get it. If you think the girl's beautiful, tell her that. Listen, darling, I think you're absolutely beautiful. Are you free this weekend? Yeah, cool, okay. Saturday, 9 p.m, wear a nice dress. Let's go. And the second point I want to make as well is, don't be so like, maybe it's up to you. Like, decisive, bruv. We're going here. Have some like critical thinking. You need to allow the woman that you're talking to or dating or in a relationship with even to be able to turn her brain off, not have to think, not have to problem solve, and just flow. Because when she's flowing, when she's in that feminine energy, when she's not thinking about shit because you're dealing with everything and you're handling things and you have that direction and that certainty and that conviction, she is perfectly in her feminine, which allows you to be in your masculine, and that balance is beautiful. You gotta stop being so lazy with it. You gotta understand, and I'm not even trying to be all soppy here and shit, just listen to me, right? These women spend hours of preparation and effort to get ready to go on a date with you, right? She did the lashes, the fucking hair, the makeup, the outfit, the bag, the shoes. Like, they think meticulously about every single detail. They have such an attention to detail, it's unbelievable. And they spend hours bringing that value and that beauty to be seen with you in public, which increases your reputation in your city as a man, which is a status thing, and men understand the importance of status. Every man knows that subconsciously or consciously. So you're on this beautiful date with this woman who makes you look good in your city, and I'm not just saying that's all that it's there for. Obviously, you're in her presence. She's dedicated her time and energy to only you for the next couple of hours on a date, and more hours before that preparing for the date. The least you could do is show up with a bit of effort. Like, what do we have to do as a man to get ready for a date? Shower, smell nice, put on some nice clothes, organize it. That's all you need to do. It's not even that difficult when you think about it. Be direct, have some confidence, have some assurance in terms of what's going on, smell good, take care of yourself, dress nice, iron your fucking clothes. You know what I mean? Like, wash your face. Don't turn up to the date with like crusty lips and shit. Like, bro. So women, on behalf of all men, I do apologize, but, you know, I'm only one man trying to save the world here. There's only so much I can do.
Okay. Particularly interesting take. And I'm not gonna lie, like, the guy was busy talking about passion and vision and effort, and I don't know, like, the guy was reminding me of like the meme where someone's like, more passion, more energy, or like the Chelsea supporter that passed on, the guy who was like, there is no passion, there is no vision, there is no direction, there is no fucking mindset in this football club. Anyways, all that said and done, a lot of what he said, I can say I agree with to a certain degree. Definitely not everything, but I do agree with him. And, you know, this is a 23-year-old guy that was busy saying this. And, okay, there's some instances where the guy is definitely right. Like, you know, putting in a little bit more effort when it comes to going out on a date. I do believe that men should definitely start stepping up on that. It's something that I've heard multiple women complain about, because there's this whole push where it's like guys are supposed to go out on dates, but there's very little effort to dress, there's very little effort on like where to go and shit. And, you know, the effort on the whole where to go and how to, you know, basically do dating is something that I will want to touch on, but there's just an element of effort that a lot of guys seem to be missing today. And while I can try and speak up for men, there's only so much that I can do when it comes to that. Effort, that one you're gonna have to do on your own. But with that said, I think it's pretty obvious the kind of reaction he got in the comment section, more so from women who were basically like, yes, more men should be listening to this. Oh, I really want to send this to a guy that I really like, but he needs to put more effort. Are you clonable? Because I want you too. Oh, did I just consider becoming a cougar and shit? Like, babes were very, very open and very, very upbeat about this kind of advice being given to guys. And, it's not a bad thing. It does represent something that a lot of women have been saying. They want guys to take them on dates. They want guys to put effort in the kind of dates that they take them. But here's the thing, all right? While I can agree with what this guy is saying, I know that this is a practice that can only be developed through some version of practice. And I'm saying this because there's a ton of guys that would love to take a lot of these babes out on nice dates, but even their understanding of what a nice date is supposed to be is very moot, because even they aren't able to fully get the idea of going on dates properly down. And I say this because if you were to go and ask a couple of different guys how many dates they've taken a babe out on this year alone, because as I record this is, towards the end of November, and we've basically had most of 2025 done. Like, go and ask a good chunk of the single guys how many of them have taken a babe out on a proper date. You will find the vast chunk of them haven't. And if they have, ask them the kind of details on like where they took their babe out on a date, did they dress up, and so on and so forth, and you will get a particularly interesting set of results that go absolutely contrary to what it is that you might think these guys are supposed to be doing. And even though it might seem like the men seem to be failing in the dating department, which is why this guy has to apologize on behalf of all men, I don't even think that it's entirely guys' fault. This is partially women's fault. And I know it's gonna sound like I'm throwing blame in the wrong direction, but I really have to put this one out there. A pretty good chunk of the reason why this is happening is because a good chunk of the women gave low effort niggas a lot of chances, so much so that the guys that would put a ton of effort clearly saw that they didn't have to put a ton of effort to get the results, because there were guys that were putting in low effort and getting the same, if not sometimes better. So you look at it, like, it's not like guys just moved to low effort. You guys allowed a bunch of this low effort shit to happen, so you guys have to deal with some of the consequences of this. And I'm sorry, it sounds like I'm being harsh on you guys, but I kid you the hell not. Men are built to adapt to the environment around them, especially when it relates to reproductive success and the ability to get some good out here. I kid you the absolute hell not. Alright, so maybe, just maybe, some of the low effort and the quote-unquote zero masculinity is because of the environment, which does lead me to a pretty good reason why a lot of these men seem to embody quote-unquote zero masculinity when it comes to situations like this. And it's the fact that most of them just haven't gotten as much experience, because a lot of them a bunch of years back probably tried and they didn't get particularly good results. And I'm gonna explain it like this. Let's go back even as recent as about 10 years ago. When guys were busy trying to hit on babes, a lot of times you try to hit on a babe. If they don't like your riz and they're not feeling you all that much, they would shame you. Like, they would basically take a screenshot and they would post it up and be like, look at this guy busy trying to shoot shots, imagine what he said. These were the same women that were also calling guys creeps if they didn't like them and those guys were trying to slide into DMs. A ton of these guys would go and try to hit on these women openly and they would get talked to like shit, okay? There's a lot of guys that have gone through this and they've experienced it multiple times, and if they haven't experienced it, they've watched people around them or have seen other people experienced it, to the point where even the idea of trying to push a babe and like go and be confident and be like, hey look, I want to take you out on a date to this and this place, just seems like it's a very bold and to some guys far-fetched move. And it might seem like, oh, but just back in the day, like your fathers were doing that kind of thing. And yeah, that's probably the case. But you think about it, our fathers weren't being aired out on social media if we decided to spit bars that didn't seem particularly that nice, or if we tried to hit on a babe and they weren't really feeling us like that. Like, to some degree, the whole idea of a guy comes and hits on you, and if he's attractive or you find him attractive enough, then yeah, cool, he's such a sweet guy, or I really like how forward he is. But if he's not an attractive guy, or if you're not feeling the guy, suddenly it's like, oh my goodness, this guy sounds like a creep, he seems like a predator, ew. Like, you see a bunch of those things happening. It just gets guys to a point where they're a lot more averse to actually trying to make forward moves like that, and they have to be a little bit more calculated. Because if you try it in a situation where there's, a lot more risk and you kind of get burnt once or twice, you're going to start being more calculated with your risks. And you can see this happen even beyond dating. Think of it like sales. There's people that absolutely enjoy sales, but the reason why they enjoy sales is because they had success prior, and it's not like they were kind of losing out time and time and time again. Otherwise, if they were losing out time and time and time again, they'd have said sales is not for me, let me not try. All right. So a lot of guys kind of ended up like that. They went, they tried, they had some not so great results. Even the whole, the worst you can do is say no. They clearly saw that that was bullshit and it could be way worse than that. So they decided to start backing off. And as they backed off and they would still try to make certain moves, they would have to be a little bit more cautious. So I'm not going to suggest a restaurant or a place that you might not like. I'll ask you where it is you'd like to go. I'd like you if you're free on a certain day. And if all of those things seem okay with you, then we can go. But if you're not interested, and even then, a lot of them would still get turned down. And as all of this is happening, there's guys that are putting in much less effort and they're still getting great results. Like, you get to a point and you're like, if those guys are putting very little effort and they're still getting positive results, then why am I putting all of this effort? I kid you the hell not. That's exactly how a ton of guys will behave. Like, chivalry got killed not by men deciding that they're going to stop being chivalrous, but by women who rewarded men that did not exude any form of chivalry. And essentially that's kind of something that did happen, because when women today say that they want men to be upfront and speak with confidence and not basically come and be like, oh, is it okay if we can do this, is it okay if we can do that, and yet these are the same women that were saying ew to some of these guys when they were trying to hit on them. These were the very same women that would basically almost vilify guys that would try to hit on them 5, 6, 7, maybe even 10 years ago, some even as recent as 2, 3 years ago. Like, it does seem like you guys expected men to automatically take all of those L's, stuff them somewhere, throw them in the trash, and not learn and adapt from the fact that a bunch of y'all called them predators and accused some of them of sexual abuse, to the point where guys basically decided the best way to try and ask a woman out on a date is to ask her when and where she'd like to go, so that you guys can at least make sure that there is consent given, you are not being forceful, and you are not seeming like you are someone that is trying to be overly controlling. And as such, that's exactly how us guys have adapted to the situation. And this isn't something that I'm saying because, Gen Zs are suffering with this. Even late stage millennials seem to be going through problems like this, because it's not like the guys who are in their 20s are the only ones that are suffering with this issue. There's guys in their 30s that are having trouble trying to ask a woman out on a date and trying to seem confident. And you can call them less masculine or claim that they have zero masculinity, but they simply adapted to the environment that they had. Now, if that environment makes them seem less masculine, then maybe it's not them that's the problem. Maybe it's the fact that you guys created an environment that did not incentivize or promote masculinity of the sort that you guys would like right now. And as I speak on environments, we also have to remember the fact that the value of the date has been declining for a while, and it only recently started to get a bit more push, in the last maybe 2 or 3 years. But over the past decade, I'd say that the value of going out on dates has been steadily declining as people have embraced the idea of Netflix and chill and having dates basically where someone just comes to your place. So if anything, like, it's not like men have zero masculinity and men need to do A, B, C, or D. The environment just didn't create a particularly positive situation where men can be quote unquote more masculine and more of their masculine selves. So whether it's getting a babe to a point where she doesn't have to use her brain, which should make her more feminine, which I feel under a different discussion point, that same statement would actually be seen as sexist, or being confident and forward about wanting to take a babe out on a date. I feel like most of these things aren't in the place where women would want them to be, simply because they previously created an environment that did not make them come out and flourish as well as they would have. Because the thing with whatever masculinity this guy is talking about, but even more so just dating in general, both of those things actually, is that these are things that are learned through time. Like, it's not like you will be born in a silo and become masculine in a silo, or you will know how to date in a silo. This isn't breastfeeding. Like, these are things that need to be learned through time, and over time we have been shown by the environment that it didn't have particularly positive results. So what I would suggest to be a potential solution for this is maybe if we incentivize the whole idea of being more forward and gave less attention to the fast sex and the Netflix and chill, then maybe more and more guys would start investing a little bit more into dates and learning how to date women a lot better than a lot of them seem to be doing right now. So while I can ask the men to put in more effort into dates and to, try and, be a little bit more upfront and, work on building their confidence and shit, I do believe that more women today need to create the environment that would make the behavior that they would want these men to have more conducive to actually exist and flourish. Not just for the guys that they find attractive, but even for the ones that they don't find attractive, so that more and more men can actually see more benefits by going in this particular route. And to kind of conclude all of this, what I'm trying to say here is masculinity isn't the problem, all right? The environment is. The environment, the situation that was created whereby men were vilified for shooting their shots and being confident, has basically been the one that has killed a lot of whatever it is that these women would want men to do, and has made them less upfront and more cautious about it. So maybe, just maybe, if you make the environment a little bit more conducive for men like this, then you might see better results as far as it happening with more and more men is concerned. Although, then again, maybe I'm talking out of my ass and I don't entirely understand this. Maybe I'm just standing up for men and I'm not really listening to what the issue is. Either way, I want your thoughts on it. The DMs are open on IG. It is at the breaktime_podcast. On Facebook, it is at the breaktime podcast. On X, it is at bagak_the_d. And on Bluesky, it is at the breaktimepod.bsky.social. Thank you so much for listening all the way till the end, and I will catch you guys on the next break.
But what I believe is that if you put a pastor and a prostitute in one room, one is likely to convert the other.